The importance of inventory management.
Inventory management has always been important for companies. However, in the current reality, characterized by market volatility and constant changes in customer needs, it becomes crucial. A company is competitive the faster it can respond to and meet customer demand, with the expected quality and at a relatively average cost. Therefore, it is common for organizations to focus their investment efforts primarily on inventory management.
Inventory management and classification. Inventories are usually found in warehouses, yards, storage rooms, transportation equipment on the move, and on retail store shelves. Production and sales cycles are constant, and so the supply chain must have an inventory available at all stages in the process. Manufacturing companies segment their inventories into inputs or raw materials, work in process or subassemblies, and finished products.
To illustrate what has been explained in this way, imagine that a company produces product A, which requires to be input X, imported by country Q. Production time for input X is 1 week. Transit time is another week, and import processing time at customs is 1 more week. The time the company takes to produce A is 1 week, and the time in transit to the distribution centers that will fill the product is also a week. The company must design a strategy to determine the frequency in which it will order input X from its provider and the amount to request, while considering delivery times and demand, as well as the production plan for product A. This way, production will not be stalled because of the lack of input, and the production level calculated when forecasting demand will be reached. Additionally, the company must locate finished product in the distribution centers at a given time, ready to fulfill client demand. If the company decides to order weekly amounts of input X during the total cycle of 5 weeks, an inventory must be found in every stage: input X in production week, input X in transit week, input X in import week, input X in product to production, and while finished product is in transit to distribution centers. After weeks go by, each stage will in turn advance 1 week in the process, while a new weekly order of input X is placed each time. The complexity of inventory management intensifies when the goods produced have different kinds of input from diverse providers in various regions, and a broad range of products to manufacture. Some variables that affect inventory management or demand: associated costs, service level, and time. The following diagram shows the characteristics to consider for each variable.
Inventory control by increase and by demand.
Stock refers to the accumulation of inventory stored in a physical space, waiting to be used or sold. Stock management is the ability of a company to keep the quantity of inventory organized and controlled, both physically and virtually. Therefore, a management method must be established to reach the optimal stock level without incurring stockouts. In other words, the method must ensure the continuity of process flows, on time and in the right manner, and at the optimal cost for the company. There are 2 main methods to control inventory level in companies: the push and pull system. A push system for inventory control considers that the production capacity of a company determines the inventory level it should have. The marketing of the product must be based on this level. The inventory level established by this method does not necessarily resemble the level the consumer requires. It rather seeks production efficiency to obtain scale economies and adapt its trade to this level. The push method is suitable for when demand is knowingly greater than the company's production capacity, but is aware in advance of the possibility of increasing production to magnify its sales. Strategies to increase the number of points of sale derive from this system, and consequently supply points are also increased to cover a greater geographic density. In push systems, forecast demand is the key to entering merchandise in the market.
Inventory control by demand.
A pull system is used when a company monitors what the consumer wants and intends to satisfy such demand. This inventory control system provides low inventory levels at supply points due to its response to particular demand and cost conditions in each place. Given this, production focuses on manufacturing or producing only what is necessary, what the customer has requested, and maintaining minimal stock levels, thus avoiding waste from overproduction. Waiting times and costs. Sales strategies derive from this system with the purpose of gaining a greater market share than competitors in industries that are already very competitive. The refill process has currently changed from a push system to a pull system because of the appearance of more competition and purchase options for the client. Once the company has selected its inventory control method, it must determine what the ideal inventory levels would be. Based on its potential demand forecast, providers, location, and specific product and industry times. It must also determine its reorder points, order amount and frequency, and security inventory, among other concepts, to ensure operation levels are covered and demand can be mostly satisfied. Pull systems come from a desire to evolve into a more efficient production and logistics. These systems consider that production and distribution respond according to demand in real time, depending on how the public progressively consumes the product. The topics of inventories, order systems, and storage are essential elements when planning a supply chain. Decisions made on inventories are not so much operational but of a more strategic nature, since inventory levels determine the placement of distribution centers, as well as providers and their locations. A regulation system and a demand forecast establish and select, based on a thorough market study, the company's potential, growth objectives and goals, and provider options, in addition to many other factors that influence planning and have a direct impact on the operation to be performed. Logistics and supply chain management work like gears. Every area must achieve synergy to carry out the operation set by company strategies. Inventory management must cooperate with the other company areas to accomplish the organization's objectives.
Distribution centers.
A distribution center is a company-designated place for strategically locating its inventory of products, with the purpose of satisfying a demand competitively. The reason why distribution centers are needed is precisely because of the changeability and uncertainty of market demand. One of the differences between the function of a distribution center and a warehouse is the time the merchandise remains in the physical space. While in a distribution center it may remain for hours, in a warehouse it generally extends to days and/or months. Companies choose to place facilities with available products for sale based on a marketing strategy and on several other factors, such as demand potential, labor and services cost, transportation availability, site or provider proximity, access routes, taxes, and subsidies, among others. This all depends on the industry and market specified for each good or service sold. Distribution centers offer companies an increasing customer service level by being strategically closer to them. While paying merchandise storage costs instead of transport costs, there are product placement and space allocation methods to achieve optimal operation of distribution centers. They attempt to maximize physical space to store the greatest possible amount of merchandise and ease operations like loading, unloading, transfers inside the warehouse, order preparation, shipment completion, and merchandise rework. This is achieved by assigning areas and classifying the product by potential and movement. Depending on the product that will be sold, there are different kinds of storage options. Fragile product store for products susceptible to being easily damaged. Parcel store management of already packed merchandise. Cold store storage for perishable products. General store, the most common type of storage, manages and stores a great variety of products and merchandise. The main function of distribution centers is managing the flow of a company's materials and/or products, to place outbound orders to distribute them into the retail or wholesale trade. One of the critical areas of distribution centers is order preparation. MORA 2023 highlights the importance of incorporating technology into the involved operations, as these activities are repetitive and require certain cognitive skills from the operator when performed manually. Therefore, the use of robots has become more frequent in the management of warehouses and distribution centers. With the intention of reducing errors and optimizing processes, MORA 2023 emphasizes that robots are cost-effective if they work long shifts. More than one shift, the daily order demand is moderate to high. The investment in technology is justified in terms of labor costs and utilized space.